My name is Ian and welcome to Planted. I'm a true plant junkie and I willingly share with you my plant knowledge so that you can have more success growing plants in your own yard. Now in this episode I want to talk to you about the old-fashioned process of a top dressing, what it is and why it works and how I use it, over the very common benefits and I think widely overused benefits of using a layer of mulch. So let's get to it, and I hope you stay till the very end. We'll get to top dressing in just a moment, but here's a few pointers on mulch. Good mulch is great. Keeps down weeds, keeps in the moisture. But we like the way mulch looks, so we keep applying it layer after layer, so much so that plants start to die. This is not my type of gardening, but my real problem with mulch is that we don't know what's in it. Many companies add a dye to their mulch to make it look even better, but it could be tree trunks, it could be poison ivy, it can be bamboo, it can be pallets. We don't know what it is, and it's not going to go on my garden. The problem is that this is not decomposed. It will not release its nutrients for a long time, and in fact it needs nitrogen to break it down for it then to release its nutrients. So that's mulch that's not decomposed. Do not get it mixed up with this stuff, which is properly decomposed and will be added as a top dressing. The downside is that it does keep on decomposing and will gradually disappear. And that's why I think it's highly advantageous, because you keep applying mulch and it just gets a thicker and thicker layer and is detrimental. This stuff will release its nutrients almost immediately. You put it on 2 inches thick and it will actually continue to decompose and get into the soil and really help your plants. What you're doing is you're increasing organic matter, which means that bugs and microbes and bacteria and worms can get to this source of their food so they can do their job. Organic matter in the soil is very good. It brings a lot of vitality and life, oxygen storing, water storing, nutrient storing capabilities. And here you can see a thin layer of properly decomposed organic matter being applied. Now when you get your head in your garden and you start to apply things like a top dressing, you get close to the plants, and I found this. I thought this died, but a little fragment of a plant, it's called Nicotiana elata grandiflora. Beautiful fragrance. This is the flower. I did a video on this, on how to propagate it. And lo and behold, the heat from the greenhouse had made it live through the winter, completely unprotected. So we'll come back and try and rescue that. When you start to do your application of top dressing, you'll notice all sorts of things. So here are some little pups from lilies that I found. And because I'm not going in there with a heavy, thick layer and mulching with 5 cubic yards, I can actually look and see what's growing. And I can identify these little free lily plants over the tree seedlings that came in with the leaves that I put around that plant to protect it from the frost. So it gives you the chance, you get your head at ground level, and it gives you the chance to see what is growing, what you want to keep, the surprise that's the Nicotiana, the surprise that's the lilies, and at the same time you're able to spot plants that you don't want. The taller plant at the back is a beautiful hibiscus, you'll see that in the summer, and this is a dahlia that I did not protect, and yet it came through the winter. But I can get my head in there and now see it. Now as a side note, this is a plant called Aristolochia. And just look at that leaf shape. If ever there was a heart shape that is perfect, that is it. This has a substantial flower that I'm hoping we'll see sometime in August. More about that in future episodes. Getting back to adding our top dressing, here are our ajuga plants that were featured in a previous video. Here's a little metal spike that I use. You put that over a runner, push it down, make sure there's a little bit of the top dressing around it, and that will root through very nicely. Next up on our guided tour, we've got a few plants I want to show you. This is the very, very tough and reliable portulaca, but this is a plant called Blatilla. It's a hardy orchid, white flowers, truly beautiful. and this is a plant called Sarracenia. I was able to get these plants from a generous gift from a good friend of mine, but what I want you to see is when you get your head down there, we have a little interloper. This is a spectacular plant called Lotus jacobaeus, and my plants died, my mother plants died, but that's a little seedling. And now I can carefully pot that up and I'll be fine. And guess what? I found another one. This is in the Vigna pot that I have in the front of my house. And that's the spectacular flower. Beautiful find, very happy. Keep your eyes open. You never know what you're going to find. Now, this particular container was planted a long time ago. It had all of last year. It overwintered just like this. I haven't dismantled it. But this is where you start to get into planting. And when you get your head close to the plants, you can see how this Ruellia is very happy and has grown around the edge of the pot. And this is the big difference between going through the motions of adding mulch and actually looking at your plants and seeing what's growing and what's free and what's rewarding you with good behavior. It's something that I would encourage you all to do, even on a small scale. Take a small plant, a small bed, give it a top dressing and look closely at those plants. This large dark foliage is a plant called Colocasia black runner. And in previous years I've grown a plant here called Datura. Big trumpet flowers, but my goodness does it set seed. And every year I come out and I have to weed and remove it. And all it takes is one plant to sneak along and you'll have them forever. Now let's get back to that Nicotiana. Whenever you do this, get yourself a plan. I'm a big fan of these masonry trowels. That sharp point on the end is very good at cutting through roots and getting underneath the plant so I can lift it up in one piece. But whenever you do a plant like this, you don't know what you're going to get. You could have the most amazing root mass and you could pick it up with one hand and it would live. But you just don't know. And it's for that reason that I recommend you get a couple of different size pots at the ready so that if it does come up in one go, you can just put it right back in the correct pot of the correct size. And this came up very well. I was very happy with it. That's the root. This is a bulb that we don't want. And I was about to congratulate myself, thinking, wow, what have we got here? This is about as good as it gets. So there I am about to put it in a pot, and this always happens. Wait for it. The whole thing collapsed. This root is a root that's got energy in it. It's a storage root, and it was close enough to the greenhouse that it had enough energy in it to put out shoots. And oh boy, did it put out shoots. But it's not put out any roots. So I need to not put this in garden soil. I'm going to get some nice potting mix and we'll use that to go in there. There's no race, there's no need to rush, and trying to avoid getting that plant set to one side. You really want it in the center so that roots can grow out from the center. And I would imagine that plant will be in that pot for about a month. We're in early June now. So if I plant that out sometime in early July, I'll be very happy. So we managed to save a plant. Next year I'll be a little more careful. As this plant is a true freebie in that I thought I had lost it, it's like finding an extra birthday present, and it makes me very happy. Get that plant in a pot with a good growing medium and just take your time watering it. You don't have to unleash the torrents of Niagara to water it. Turn the pressure down, get that hose just dripping, and what I like to do is just go around it in a circular fashion, and that way the water's got a chance to soak into the growing medium while you go around and do a full lap. And that is just a wonderful plant. Now, briefly, before we put down our top dressing, I like to use my masonry trowel, and I lift and grade, and I can flick and get my soil level, no weeds, and I'm not compressing it. And I just find this makes the job so much easier that when you put down your organic matter, your top dressing, it doesn't have to go so thick. When you get undulations in the ground, you level it out by adding a lot more depth. I find this a very zen activity, having some pots of my top dressing and then choosing my area to go. Now, if you've got a large garden, and I would think most people have got a garden a lot larger than I have, you don't have to do this on every bed every season. You don't. Not even every year. Just choose those beds with your best plants in and try it, and you'll be surprised how they will grow. I like the fact that I literally have to touch every single plant in my garden, and I'm giving them nutrients, I'm making it look better, I'm improving the soil. It's organic matter for worms and bacteria and bugs. And I get to find free plants at it. And it makes me a plant grower rather than a plant replacer. And I hope you strive to be the former and not continue being the latter. And finally, love doing these videos. I now have a Patreon account. So come on over and support the channel at patreon.com/plantedwithiancooke. I look forward to getting your questions and comments. And finally, I want you to tell me what you want me to do in the future. What videos would you like? Bye for now.